Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again today. If you're watching this video, you've probably experienced some tragedy in your life that has caused some pain and unhappiness. Well, what if we could turn tragedy into something positive? What can we learn from the tragedies that we experience in our life? Well, today we're talking about tragedies. And again, what are things that would be considered tragedies? They would be different for each one of us. And typically we connect a negative meaning to tragedy. It's something that's tragic. It's something that happened that shouldn't have happened or that is unfortunate. And we often think that it creates a negative outcome in our life. Well, this past week, I had the opportunity of attending a substance abuse conference, and one of the keynote speakers at the conference was a gentleman by the name of Eric LeMarque. And some of you may know him, some may not, but Eric LeMarque is or was a hockey player. He played hockey most of his young adult life and into adulthood. He played hockey for the Boston Bruins. He was on the American hockey team, so a very successful hockey career. So Eric, in his presentation, he talked about his life and his career in hockey, and he also though kind of said that he wasn't maybe the best person that he could be. He had a lot of non-working beliefs in his life, and those beliefs drove his behavior. And he got to a place where he felt like he no longer needed his teammates. He didn't need his coach. He didn't agree with them. They were creating maybe more problems or pain in his life than he wanted to deal with. So he made a decision to quit hockey, which he did, and he then took up snowboarding, and he became a professional snowboarder. So again, you can look him up, and he has a movie that you can watch that is called Six Below. There's a book by the same title, and he has social media out there, so you can look him up and find out more about his life. But I want to share with you his experience that the movie is about. And he got to the point in his life where he was a professional snowboarder, but he was also addicted to drugs. So again, if we look at why we turn to things like drugs in our lives, it's usually because we're unhappy with where we're at. So we're looking for something to change the way we feel or the state that we're in. And Eric had gotten in a car accident and had to go to court as a result of his drug use. And so he was really struggling with this addiction and also struggling with really his life and where he was at in his life, seeking for happiness, but not being able to ever really find it. So prior to having to go back to court, he decided he needed a break, and so he decided to go and do what he loved, which was to snowboard. So he went by himself snowboarding and had snowboarded most of the day, and it was getting towards the end of the day, and he was going, I don't know if it was his last run or just a run in the afternoon, but it was getting close to the time that the lifts would shut down. And there was a storm starting to come in, and as Eric started down the slope, he had the option of going down some of the groomed slopes, or he could go to an ungroomed part of the mountain. And he decided to go in that direction. As it turns out, the storm came in and he ended up getting lost. And to make a long story short, I encourage you to watch the movie. It's amazing of what we can endure and what we can overcome and what we are capable of doing as individuals. We really are limitless, and our potential to survive, but not only to survive, but to thrive. So if we really understood our potential, instead of just surviving, what if we used it in positive ways to do and create all of the things that we can only imagine? What if we turn what we imagine into our reality? So, long story short, Eric was lost in the snow, in freezing weather, with very limited amount of clothing, no food. He had matches which didn't work. 8 days in the freezing cold, with the outcome of losing the most important thing to him in his life, which were his feet. Because of frostbite, he ended up losing both of his legs below the knees. So everything that he had done throughout his life was based on his using his feet. His hockey playing, his snowboarding was all dependent upon his feet. He lost the most important thing in his life. Now he has a choice. Again, we look at principles, right? One of the principles that we talk about is choice. And that is that in any circumstance or situation, we always have a choice as to what we're going to think about that circumstance or situation. So in Eric's case, losing his feet, what does that mean? Again, we know that events in and of themselves mean nothing. So losing his feet meant nothing until he attaches meaning to it, which he's able to do with his thoughts. So losing my feet, I get to choose what I think about that. That could be the end of my life. I could think I no longer have my feet. The things that are most important to me, my life is over, and I could go in the direction of choosing to end my life because my life no longer has meaning. Or I could potentially think about it in such a way that it turns in to being a positive thing for me, which is what Eric has chosen to do. So instead of being a victim to what happened to him, he chose to use this as an opportunity to look at himself and to figure out, how did I get to that place in my life where I was addicted to drugs, where my relationships with other people were not what I wanted them to be, where I was lonely, where I was to the place that I was looking outside of myself for solutions to what was going on inside of me. He used this as an opportunity to figure all of that out and to change who he was or is as an individual. And I had the pleasure of meeting him, and he's an amazing person. I bought his book and he signed it, and I've never been to a book signing where I felt the person as genuine as Eric was, and to have as much concern and love for the people that he is serving and trying to help. So he took this tragedy and used it as an opportunity to learn some things about himself and about who he was and why his life was the way that it was and why he was doing the things that he was doing. And he has been able to turn his life around and find a life filled with joy and happiness and healthy relationships. He now has a wife and a family. He has a successful business, and he is going about doing good in the world, changing and influencing the lives of hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of others, to be able to learn from his experience to help others make better choices in their life to achieve lives or create lives of happiness and success. Napoleon Hill said that within every, I'm going to use the word tragedy, but he didn't use that word, within every negative thing that happens in our life is the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So any tragedy that you have experienced in your life, just know that within that tragedy is the seed of an equal or greater benefit. It's just a matter of finding what that benefit is. If you're still struggling with tragedies in your life, look for that seed of what could that benefit be that could come from that could bless your life and possibly the lives of those around you, your family, your friends, and even on a grander scale than that. Take that tragedy, figure out what the seed, the benefit is connected with that tragedy, and use that to create for you the life that you want, and if possible, use it to bless and benefit the lives of others that you come in contact with. Thanks for watching today. Hopefully you found Eric's story inspiring. I encourage you to look for his movie, 6 Below, and his book, and subscribe to our channel and visit our website. You'll see it listed below.